All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regular council meeting of May 7th. A few housekeeping items before we start the meeting. If you have a cell phone, please turn your cell phone to off or to vibrate. Please know that council meetings are being live streamed, recorded, and retained. All personal information collected will be managed in accordance with the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, the FOIA Act. With that, I will start introductions. I'll start with Ryan, please.
Morning, Ryan Morrison, Director, Operational Services.
Morning, Chris Ratchin, Director of Legislative, Community and Agricultural Services.
Good morning, Margaret Bloom, Director for Planning and Development Services.
Jeff Holmes, Chief Administrative Officer.
Morning, Greg Harris, Division 2 Counselor.
Jennifer Letts, Division 7.
Good morning, Alan Miller, Division 3.
And good morning, Angela Albers, Division 5, and Reeve.
Good morning, Peggy Johnson, Division 6.
Tiffany Nixon, Division 4.
Good morning, Dwayne Fulton, Division 1.
Laura Catmans, Executive Assistant.
Good morning, Mariah Schnell, Planner.
Sydney Nora, Communications.
Good morning, Shelley French, Communications.
All right, thank you very much. We have an agenda in front of us. Is there any changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, could I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please? Made by Councillor Letts. Thank you. I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. We have regular council meeting minutes from April 23rd, 2025. Is there any errors or omissions in those minutes? Seeing none, could I have a motion to adopt those minutes, please? Moved by Councillor Nixon. I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. We'll move right into our public hearing. That is agenda item 4.1. This is for bylaw number LU 15/25, being a bylaw of Mountain View County in the province of Alberta to amend land use bylaw number 1024, affecting the South 83327 4 Plan 0814559, Block 1, Lot 2, and the Southeast 83327 4 Plan 9011814, Block 1, pursuant to the Municipal Government Act. This received first reading on April 9th, 2025. And with that, I will open the public hearing and I'll turn it over to planning, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The presentation starts on page 19. The applicant is Brian Wiesner, and the landowners are Dean and Tammy Chapman, Emil and Ellen Wiesner, and Brian Wiesner. This application is proposing to redesignate an approximate 4.81 acres from Agricultural District A to Country Residential District RCR to facilitate a boundary adjustment. This slide shows the location map. The subject lands are in the rural community of Reed Ranch, approximately 25 kilometers east of the town of Olds. The next slide is the Figure 3 growth management conceptual strategy of the MDP and shows that the subject quarter contains lands partially within both the agricultural preservation area and the potential multi-lot residential development area. This application is dealing with an existing parcel that will continue to exist whether or not the boundary adjustment is approved, so these policies are not relevant for this particular application. Page 22 of the agenda shows the redesignation site sketch. The application is seeking to redesignate an approximate 4.81 acres to Country Residential District. This redesignation will facilitate a boundary adjustment, which will aid in providing legal and physical access to a parcel that currently utilizes an access easement agreement with the balance of the quarter. The following slide shows the subdivision site sketch and demonstrates which boundaries are proposed to be adjusted. Approximately 0.51 acres are being subdivided from this triangular parcel and being returned to the balance, and approximately 0.5 acres are being subdivided from the balance and added to the triangular parcel. This change in boundaries will result in minimal changes to the size of the parcel, but will allow for a shared approach to be constructed at the parcel's northern tip. From this shared approach, a new driveway will be constructed to the development on this triangular parcel. The next slide shows the surrounding land use map and shows that the subject quarter is surrounded by agricultural land uses. The subject parcel is currently zoned agricultural district, though the primary land use is residential. This application will correct the zoning of this pre-existing parcel by redesignating it to country residential district. Page 25 of the agenda shows the oil and gas facilities map. The only oil and gas facilities within the quarter are natural gas lines servicing the development within the quarter. The necessary oil and gas facility operators were notified during the referral process and did not respond with any concerns. This slide is a zoomed out view of the previous map, showing that apart from these natural gas lines, there are no other oil and gas facilities in close proximity to the subject parcel. The following slide shows the topography and water map. Spruce Creek runs through the quarters to the north and east of the subject quarter. You can see several unnamed tributaries of Spruce Creek within the subject quarter. During the site visit, it was noted that some of these creeks may act as natural drainage channels for the quarter and may not actually contain water. The next slide is a closer view of the subject quarter. During the site visit, it was noted that the topography is more even on the west side of the quarter, where all of the development exists. East of the development, the topography begins sloping downward into a valley towards Spruce Creek and its tributaries. According to Agricid, the subject quarter features multiple landforms. The southwest corner of the quarter has a landform considered undulating high relief. The western portion of the quarter has a landform considered inclined to steep high relief. And the eastern portion of the quarter has a landform considered valley with terraces. This slide shows the environmental scan map. A level 3 environmentally significant area has been identified surrounding Spruce Creek and its tributaries. The listing of historic resources also indicates that the subject quarter has the potential to contain paleontological resources. Alberta's Land Use Procedures Bulletin indicated that Historical Resources Act approval was not required for this boundary adjustment application. The following slide shows a closer look at the subject quarter. Alberta Merged Wetland Inventory data notes some potential marsh wetlands throughout the quarter. Only a small portion of these potential wetlands are within the subject parcel toward its southeast tip. You can see that the eastern edge of the subject parcel, where the new driveway will be constructed, is outside of both the ESA and any potential marsh wetlands. No other development is proposed with this application, and the agricultural use of the balance of the quarter is not intended to change, so the impact on the environmental features of the quarter should be minimal. Page 31 of the agenda shows historical aerial images of the quarter. You can see that the use of the land has remained consistent over the years. The development on the quarter is well established and has existed for decades. The next slide shows the site dimension sketch, noting the dimensions of the areas involved in this boundary adjustment application. This slide details the history of the quarter for context. There is a partially closed road allowance within the quarter, Road Plan 6609 BM. The western 1.2 acres of this road plan remain open, shown in yellow on this slide. The eastern 1.64 acres, shown in red, was closed in 2003 and consolidated with the balance of the quarter to the south. The first parcel out of the quarter, in pink on this slide, exists to the north of this road allowance and was subdivided pre-1980s. The subject parcel, shown in green, is the second parcel out and was subdivided in 1990. You can see on this aerial that this parcel currently has no access to Township Road 331A to the north, and that the access and the driveway belong to the balance of the quarter. In blue, you can see that the boundary in the northwest quarter of the balance has previously been adjusted. The driveway on the balance was constructed encroaching onto the quarter to the west. At this time, both quarters were owned by the same landowner. The driveway remained encroaching until 2007, when approximately 2.6 acres containing the driveway was subdivided out of Southwest 833.27.4 and consolidated with Southeast 833.27.4. This consolidated parcel is now known as South 833.27.4, Plan 0814559, Block 1, Lot 2. The following slide shows images of the subject parcel with the approximate current and proposed boundaries. Current boundaries are shown in red and proposed boundaries are shown in green. Photo A shows the approximate southeast corner of the parcel, and photos B and C show the boundaries in relation to the driveway. You can see from photos B and C that the proposed boundary better aligns with existing fence lines. The current boundary cuts inside of this fence line, whereas the proposed boundary will allow this fenced area to be contained within only one parcel. Page 35 of the agenda shows the approximate boundaries in relation to the development on the subject parcel. Photo A again shows how the proposed boundary will align better with existing fence lines. Photo B shows how the current boundary cuts off part of the subject parcel's front yard, whereas the adjusted boundary will allow this front yard to be contained within one parcel. The next slide shows the development within the boundary adjustment area, which consists of a dwelling with attached garage and 2 sheds. This slide shows the development on the balance of the quarter. This development includes a dwelling, a shop, 1 sea can, 1 RV, a few sheds, and a few horse shelters. The following slide shows some of the agricultural uses of the balance. This includes an outdoor riding arena, several horse pens with shelters, and pasture lands. Photo C also exhibits the varied topography and the valley within the quarter. This slide shows the access and sight lines from Township Road 331A on the north side of the quarter. This access is proposed as a shared access to the subject parcel and the balance. Mountain View County's Operational Services was notified about the proposed boundary adjustment and responded indicating that the shared approach would need to be widened to 8 meters at the property line in order to meet the joint approach specifications. A new driveway will be constructed from the shared approach, leading to the development within the subject parcel. The shared approach and new driveway will provide legal and physical access to this parcel, eliminating the need for an access easement agreement with the balance. Page 40 of the agenda looks at Mountain View County's boundary adjustment guidelines. Policy 3.3.21 of the Municipal Development Plan allows for the consideration of minor boundary adjustments in accordance with county policy. Boundary Adjustment Policy 2.1.1 outlines the scenarios in which a boundary adjustment may be considered. This application is looking to provide legal and physical access to the subject parcel, which is a reason that can be considered. Policy 2.1.2 is not a concern as this application is not increasing the size of the parcel. And Policy 2.1.3 notes that a registrable plan of survey will be required as a condition of subdivision. Administration can support a resolution of approval for this proposal. The proposal is within the parameters described in the boundary adjustment guidelines and the land use bylaw. During the circulation process, there were no concerns received from referral agencies or adjacent landowners. The proposal complies with the policies of the statutory plan and the regulations of the land use bylaw. This concludes my presentation, and the applicant is available in the gallery if you have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant have any new or additional information they'd like to share? No, thank you. The applicant waves. Is there anyone in the gallery? Sorry, we are recording this, so is there anyone in the gallery who would like to either speak in favor or in opposition to this application? Is there anyone online who would like to speak either in favor or in opposition to this application? Just checking with administration to see if there's anyone online. Okay, seeing none. Council, any questions? No, seeing none, then I will ask if administration has, planning has any closing comments.
No closing comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And does the applicant have any closing comments? No, the applicant waives. Thank you. With that, I will close the public hearing and I will look for a motion, please. Councillor Lutz.
I move that council give second reading to bylaw number LU 1525, redesignating the lands within this, South 833-24-4, plan number 08-14-559, block 1, lot 2, and Southeast 833-24-4, plan number 90-11-814, block 1.
Thank you. And I think that was 833-27-4.
Okay.
Is that, okay? Thank you. Is there any further discussion? No? Seeing none, then I will call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. And Councillor Lutz, please.
I further move that council give third reading to bylaw number LU 1525, redesignating the lands within S 833-24-274, Plan 08-14559, Block 1, Lot 2, and Southeast 833-274, Plan number 90-11-814, Block 1.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. Okay, and we will move into 6.1. Councillor Harris.
I'll move the council give first reading to bylaw LU 17/25, redesignating the lands within the southwest of 25-32-6 west of the 5th.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. And Councillor Harris.
I'll further move that council set the public hearing for bylaw LU 17/25, redesignating the lands within the southwest of 25-32-6 west of the 5th for June 11, 2025 at or after 9 a.m.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. And we are on to 6.2, bylaw number 625 fee schedule. Christopher, please.
Thank you, Worship. This bylaw comes back to council annually where we review and revise any fees or rates that the municipality charges. The bylaw has come back with some minor changes this year, specifically to the planning and development section, beginning on page number 59 of your agenda package, where all of those fees are increased annually by the consumer price index. The consumer price index this year was about 2.5%. So that was applied, and then any rounding was done to make those numbers a little bit cleaner than having a bunch of cents in there. Those are the only changes that are being proposed to the bylaw today, but certainly council can ask questions on any portions of the bylaw or amend any of the rates or fees as you see fit.
Thank you. And Christopher, maybe could you just explain, we have added some verbiage under safety codes on page 63. Could you maybe just go through that?
This is just to align with our QMP, our quality management plan that we have with Safety Codes Council to be an accredited municipality. And it deals with, again, the time frame of applying for an application and whether we then will deem an application to be started or suspended within that 120 days.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, is there questions for administration? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. A couple of questions, if I might. Perhaps we'll start page 63, where it does look at the timelines. I wondered if these timelines are wide enough. Certainly having worked with trades on projects, I'm aware that when you're working with more than one trade and they have to order materials, sometimes it takes a significant amount of time to get all the trades to do the sequence that's required to complete the project, especially after they order the materials. And I'm wondering if these timelines are sufficient. I know from experience, projects I've worked on have taken longer than this.
Margareta?
So yes, it does reflect our quality management plan, and we typically will work with our, contractors that pull these permits. Again, these are in the instances where there is no response from the person who pulled the permit in terms of, requesting those additional inspections and or closing of the file. So again, this is just the ability to, after that time frame, if there is no response from the applicants, to close the file and not refund any of the fees. But we do work with our applicants if there are delays that they communicate to us.
Okay, Councillor Johnson.
So what would be the communication process? Like, are you going to reach out to them on by phone or something? I'm just concerned that if we're going to if we're not going to refund the fees, that they will be aware well in advance that there that could be a consequence.
So the
Margareta.
typical process is, again, we do use the phone to contact our, our applicants. We also send out regular letters that will identify that it is coming up for that time frame or why they haven't contacted us yet for those inspections. So we don't just close any files. There will be communication to all of the applicants.
So Margareta, maybe just as a follow-up on this, does administration have the authority to expand these timelines if applicants are unable to meet them, but they do actually contact administration?
Yes, we do, and we do work with them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Johnson.
Thanks. A second
Yes.
unrelated question, if I might. On page 61, it looks at penalty fees. And I'm just wondering, I'm not aware of any examples where these penalty fees were applied. And I'm just wondering whether or not we use these.
So these penalty fees are from our land use bylaw with our enforcement section. So they are not used regularly. They are applied with offences. And again, typically our process is if we receive a complaint or are made aware of a development that occurred without any approvals, we typically will work with an applicant. And if there is the ability for them to then apply for example, a development permit to bring that into compliance, then those penalties typically do not apply. We work with compliance first. However, those remain options for the approving authority when considering those development permits and or, penalties that can apply if there is non-compliance and not working with us to bring development into compliance.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Miller, please.
So question, Margareta. So once a building permit has been issued, what's the time frame for completion of the project? Is it still 2 years?
I do believe it is that 2-year time frame.
Okay, so that doesn't change then though?
No, that
Okay.
won't change.
Okay,
Because like Councillor Bolton said that it's, Peggy Johnson said, I think sometimes timelines within 90 days could be a real stretch if that was the end of it. So as long as we still have the 2 years.
okay. Is there any additional questions? No, if not, and I should have done this to start with so I get the process correct. Maybe we'll take first reading. And then if there's any amendments that need to be made, we can make them after first readings on the table. Councillor Fulton, please.
I'll move that council grant first reading to bylaw 0625 fee schedule.
Thank you. Okay, so with the discussion, are there any further questions for administration on the bylaw in our agenda package? No? At this point, are there any amendments that want to be proposed for the fee schedule? Okay. Seeing none then, I will call to question on first reading. Wait a minute, so Jeff, just process wise, Councillor Harris was here for the part of it. It's not a public hearing. And so Councillor Harris doesn't have to be present for all of the public hearing in order to vote on first reading. Is that correct?
Correct. Councillor Harris can still vote on this
Okay.
motion if he feels equipped to do so.
Okay, I just wanted to check. I know the public hearings are slightly different. So, so we do have first reading on the floor moved by Councillor Fulton. If there's no further discussion on first reading, I will call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Would someone like to move second reading, please? Councillor Fulton.
I'll move that council grant second reading to bylaw 0625 fee schedule.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call to question on second reading. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And Christopher, is there any immediate need to move to third reading on this bylaw?
No urgency. We can bring it back to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we will move on to 7.1 directives. So we'll first go through page by page and then I'll ask, or maybe I'll start with Jeff. Jeff, is there anything that you would like to point out to council?
Nothing to point out. Happy to answer any questions council may have. The directives are on page 94 and you'll see that some of the items there has not been any additional progress to report to council, such as the rail safety improvement program. We're still waiting for funding on those types of things to come open. And just on a side note, it's not on our directives, but the STIP grant that we applied for with Didsbury in partnership with them. I did reach out to the ministry just to see if I could get an update on when they would be prepared to make a decision on that. And May was the answer. So we are in May. So I expect in the next couple of weeks, we should have some clarity on that project.
You had me hanging. I thought you were going to give us good news. Sheesh. Okay. So are there any questions? We'll first start on page 94. Is there any questions for Jeff on page 94? And so I would like to propose that RC 23-659 be removed at this point from the council directives as complete. Given that I did meet with Greenwood Neighborhood Place and Minister Nixon on this issue, and I think that there is a way forward that may not include the county at this point. And if it does, I'll ensure that council is made aware of what the request from council is. So we can remove that from the directives. And I just had another question because I think this is different, or maybe I just haven't noticed it before. So on all of these directives, it says complete and ready for council review. But in some of these, or in the majority of them, for instance, sending the letter to forestry, I guess that did come back to council. But in some of these, they don't come back to council? Or
The
do they-
typical
or do they
process
all?
is when they're complete, we highlight them yellow. And I think
Okay.
that's where the wording ready for council review is that's the final review by council before they disappear from the list and you don't see them again.
Okay, that's fine. I don't think I'd ever seen the ready for review after the directive, so I just,
Yeah, I think maybe sometimes it just says complete, but
yeah,
maybe with the expansion of the column, it picked up the rest of the language. I'm not sure, but there's no action required. It's just unless council disagrees with the resolution that we've arrived at for those items, it's just showing council that that motion has been complete and will be removed from the directives.
perfect. Okay, is there any questions for Jeff on page 95? No. Seeing none, then we have a motion on page 93 of the agenda. Councillor Johnson.
I would move that council receive the council directives as information with appropriate action to be taken.
Thank you. And Jeff, just wondering, did I need to make a motion to remove that council directive from, I didn't see any opposition to it, so are we okay with that?
I think that's fine as a consensus decision and we'll update the directives accordingly.
Okay, thank you. All right, is any further discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. So 8.1 will be after the closed session discussion. So we'll move on to 8.2, and that's the policy 1008 reserves discussion. Jeff, please. Or sorry, Christopher. Sorry. I thought it was a finance thing, but it's a.
It can be a finance thing. I'm
No,
happy
I
with
am
that as
sorry.
well, if you'd like
My-
to direct
my-
finance.
My apologies, Christopher. Sorry, please proceed.
Happy to. Thank you, Your Worship. So policy 1008 reserves governs all of the reserves that the county holds. At the February 5th special council meeting where we reviewed a bunch of our policies, council requested 2 changes to this policy, and those changes have been brought forward. There's actually 3 changes that administration is proposing, the first of which is just reordering the policy back into alphabetical order. So really nothing material there, but you'll see a number of track changes throughout the document that reflect putting it back into alphabetical order. The first change that council had requested were amendments to the intermunicipal reserve, which reflect council's recent changes to policy 8006, intermunicipal collaboration capital reserve. That's contained on page 108 of your agenda package. So if we pop over to 108, you'll see that we've moved a number of things around here. We've pulled out anything out of this reserve policy that's already captured within policy 8006, just to make sure that we don't have to worry about any type of duplication or any irregularities. And then we have aligned this reserve policy back with the mentality that council passed in 8006 with the new changes to the capital reserve policy. So that is what you're seeing in policy number 1008 sub I. Maybe I'll pause there, Your Worship, and then I'll move forward to the next one.
Okay, is there any questions for Christopher on that policy? No, seeing none. Christopher, please.
So the next changes are on page 112 of your agenda package, and this is the Park Facilities Reserve. You'll maybe recall that we had a conversation around the Park Facilities Reserve and whether it should be closed or whether it should be expanded. It was kind of in a state where it was no longer operative in its current state. Council requested that we open up this policy to allow for the funds to be used at any of the county's campgrounds, day use areas, or parks. So those changes have been made to the principles, as well as into the background section, which now allows for any funds within the Park Facilities Reserve to be used in any of our day use areas, Haylers Dam, Bagnall, those types of things, instead of just at Water Valley, Bagnall Park, and Westward Hall.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for Christopher on this policy? I think that is very well captured in council's direction. Christopher?
That's all I had, Your Worship.
Okay. Is there any questions for Christopher on any of the reserve policies? Is there any appetite for council to go through individually? I think we've already done this, but I'll open the floor to any questions on this agenda item. No? Seeing none, then we have a motion on page 97. Councillor Miller.
I would move the council approve policy 1008, reserves as presented.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. On to 8.3, policy 4005, road template. Christopher.
Thank you, Your Worship. So again, this policy was reviewed at the special council meeting on February 5th. And there were a couple of changes that had been requested by council. The first of which was to amend the procedure specifically relating to the development of approaches within the county. And so we made the changes to the approach construction checklist that was requested, as well as to the typical approach schematic, which has included updated surfacing standards. So that was requested by Councillor Fulton. So if you pop down into the procedure down onto page 137, a change that was requested by council was to include that if the applicant is not the landowner, written consent from the landowner must be included. So that has now been detailed out in the procedure. And then if we pop down into the actual schedule, just give me 1 second and I'll find the right one. Down onto page 155, the approach construction checklist. There have been some changes to this. Operational Services has reviewed it in its entirety. But then again, there was a request that council had to put at the bottom there, if the applicant for the approach is not the landowner, consultation is recommended prior to construction. Again, because this is the checklist that they're operating off of. And then onto page 157, there was a request to add on verbiage at the top right-hand corner. We've put it there. Where it says that surfaces on all approaches shall be consistent with the adjoining road as per section 5.8 of the procedure. So those were the changes that had been requested by council, and then council had requested for this to come back for any further discussion if necessary.
Thank you. Council, questions? No? Seeing none, I think, again, thank you very much. I think you captured council direction very well in this one. Okay, there's no further discussion on this one. Then we have a motion on page 134. Councillor Lutz.
I move that council accept the amendments to procedure 4005-01 road template as information. No further action required.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And we will move on to the Operational Services Quarterly Report. Ryan, please.
Give me 1 second. Presented to you is the Operational Services Quarterly Report. We are starting to see some of the equipment that we've purchased is coming in. So we've got a couple pieces that have come in. Our double drum roller that we bought from Future Ag and Olds came in, so it's ready to go here for our spring program once we start the base stabilization. We did get a dozer, and then yesterday not contained in this report, our staff did go down to Calgary to pick up some of our plow trucks that we ordered last year are starting to come in right now from the States. So we're starting to get on that and seeing some of our program equipment, our main pieces of our program equipment are getting ready to go. Re-gravel program, it is complete. We have put together the maps. The maps should be sent to council here probably before the end of the month. We're just doing our final analysis with with GIS on some pricing and some gravel hauling distances to make sure that we're not gonna exceed the budget on there. That the chipping program has been put together. That'll also be presented to council closer to the end of the month or early in June. Again, 121 kilometers, be ready to go. I'm still working on the base stabilization program for council. We're going to try and present that in early June, but I can tell most of council, our staff are gearing up to start before the long weekend-ish, weather dependent on the Harmattan Road, Range Road 40. We'll be starting there up at Highway 27 and starting to work south from there. Pothole patching. As soon as our summer staff start here on Monday, we'll be going full tilt into pothole patching. Right now we are doing some, you'll see our trailers out and about going around filling potholes. There's still, we've gone through the majority of the spring breakup. By no means is it over yet. We don't see spring breakup stop until about mid-May when we start seeing those overnight temperatures higher. Once the summer staff start, you're gonna see a lot more pothole patching, and we're also gonna be lining up our contractor from BC to come mix us some more pothole patch. So we'll get that going. Ditching and drainage, that hasn't stopped. They've never stopped ditching all winter long because we just didn't have a harsh winter. So they've been out there with the machines, working the ditches. This year, we don't have any gravel pit reclamation projects anticipated. We're going to be working on some for next year. For dust control, just a reminder to all your residents that the application window closes on the 15th. We've definitely seen a large uptick this year on people phoning in and return customers. We are somewhat concerned with most of our dust control comes from Old Smith, which is up by Athabasca, which right now you can't get there because of the wildfires that are there right now. So hopefully that'll all get resolved by the time the dust control comes down. Another one with the dust control is we are seeing an uptick in complaints coming in from residents phoning in, complaining about dust. They're complaining about everything to do with dust. They're complaining about trucking, traffic, agricultural traffic, us blading the roads. They're complaining about that. We're just seeing that it's just a part of being through a dry spell. We're seeing we haven't had very much precipitation in the last 2 weeks, and there was that bit of snow there, but it's just been a dry spring, and we anticipate we're just going to keep getting dust complaints come in until it rains. And especially with seeding going on, there's lots of trucks out there driving around. Like right now with road bans on, you're not seeing as many industry driving the roads, but we are getting a fair few dust complaints coming in, and we're doing our best to mitigate them however we can. We provided our charts for industry. You say road bans are on right now, but for January 1st to the 31st, pretty consistent for what we usually see. And then at the last page is our service requests that we're experiencing there. And I know at the last time we did a quarterly report, we promised council that we would provide a report, and we're going to do that here in June as well on gravel road complaints. What constitutes a gravel road complaint? We've pulled that data, we've analyzed it. Now we're just going to make sure we have a really good, inclusive conversation with council about that in June. So, and I think too, we might see some of these numbers pop up a little bit after this spring. So any questions on the operational services quarterly report?
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Question about dust control. Last year, about this time, there was a contingent from Division 6 came and talked about dust control on Hall Route Township Road 334. Do those people still need to apply for dust control, or through the industry negotiation, is industry paying for that dust control this year?
So the way the policy is written now is we are working with the oil companies for them to pay for that dust control.
So the residents don't need to apply?
I don't believe so, no.
Thank you. Can I ask an additional question?
Sure.
Thank you. With the rig moves and frac moves, 11 in the first quarter, are we tracking that at all? As far as, sort of relating it back to road complaints? I guess recently in Division 6, we've had some complaints, as you know, Range Road 43 and 44. I think that is some of the road that's being used for the rig moves and the frac moves. Are we correlating that data at all?
So contained in the operational services report, there is the page where we have all of the complaints that come in per quadrant, and they are allocated to the road. So you can look at the map and you can see what roads we're getting the complaints on. Now, those roads definitely will come up on the map with some complaints on there. Now, correlating them directly to, we get a phone call and we know that it's a frac, we don't go to that level, but we do correlate that those roads are roads we're getting complaints on. Is that good?
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Fulton.
So just, I guess unrelated, but rechipping program, that won't get rolling till the bans come off in?
Nope, we'll get the rechipping program. We'll start to roll here after May long weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Nixon.
Just in regards to patching, you said that we use somebody out of BC, they make like a patch mixture for us.
Yeah.
Do we tar any of those holes or blow them out before we patch? I just noticed that lots of times it's the same spots that we're
Yeah.
constantly repatching and going back and redoing, and then it all comes out of the hole and we go back and redo and it comes out of the hole.
So the patch that we use, that we get made up, doesn't require you to pre-oil the hole. When you pre-oil the hole, that's more what you see them do with cold mix, but we use what's called it's a Black Armor QPR mix. You can buy it in bags. And that's one of the uses why we use it, is so you don't have to pre-sweep the hole. Like when we used cold mix, we used to buy it from Border Paving in Red Deer. We'd have to sweep the hole, then we'd have to torch the hole, and then use the kettle to oil the hole. This stuff, it's a cold patch. You don't have to do as much of that. Now, some of those spots that you see the same hole all the time, it's not the patch failing, it's the road still continuing to fail underneath the patch. Then it doesn't accept the patch and it expels it.
Have we ever looked into maybe a different formula that's stronger or has more
I can say
rubber compounds or something in it so that it stays in the hole?
we've tried lots of different stuff. We've had QPR, this Black Armor. We've purchased stuff from Borger in Calgary when they make it for the city. Like we've tried all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
Just sometimes it really works.
Sometimes
Sometimes it just really doesn't.
Is there any other questions for Ryan? Councillor Harris.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Called to question, all in favor, and that motion's carried. And we are on to 8.5, Corporate Services Quarterly Report. Mike, please.
Thank you, Reeve. So the RFD for the Corporate Services Quarterly Report begins on page 187 of the agenda package, with the report on 188 of the agenda package. So on the assessment side, we sent out our residential RFIs earlier this year. This affected the southwest area of the county, divisions 2 and 4. We submitted our county assessments to the province on February 19th. On the province side, they mailed their linear assessment notices January 31st, with their designated industrial property assessment notices mailed February 28th. Looking ahead, we mailed our assessment tax notices yesterday, so May 6th, and we accompanied that with a media campaign with the communications coordinator just to inform all the property owners that assessment tax notices were mailed. On the tax side, there were a couple tax penalties applied last quarter in January and in March. Perk and Dirk application was submitted in January, and we had 16 properties where we had applied a tax recovery notification on title, as their arrears were over 1 year outstanding. Looking ahead, some notable dates on the tax side: June 17th, another penalty will be applied of 2%. And just to note, property tax payment needs to be made last business day of June, which this year is June 30th, to receive the early payment incentive. We applied the PAD information, quarterly report, tax receivable information is included as well. On the business service and IT side, there's a security assessment underway to provide recommendations to improve protection on the county systems. As well, there was a couple breaches that were resolved. Another good reminder to be diligent around cybersecurity. On the GIS side, adjustments were completed on the GIS data to ensure it met new requirements for the upcoming election and voter registration. Air photo projects RFP process were completed, and we partnered with Clearwater County. And we should see some flying, if not happened already, fairly soon. IT, both project team kicked off an internal and completed the ERP project. First phase, the assess phase, was well underway with numerous sessions completed. Deep dives into the county processes and data. Topics that were covered included finance, inventory, citizen portal, and the Gravel app. They're also working on opportunities to optimize and increase speed of accessing files since the migration to the cloud. Finance side, overall revenues seem to align with budget at the end of the first quarter, while expenses are trending slightly lower at the end of Q1. Revenue contributors are logging revenues and leased land leases. Finance and general accounting appear lower than anticipated and is explained by little to no bad debt, and the recognition of early tax incentives is not there yet. As mentioned, the finance system replacement is underway, currently working through the blueprint, and the initial training is ongoing. As we move ahead, we've included the grant status update. We've also included the consolidated statement of operations for the first quarter. And the last thing was the 2025 project reporting for your information. And that would include the corporate services quarterly report. Jen and myself are here for any questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Councillor Fulton.
Well, thank you for your presentation. So back on page 190 with the 333K in logging revenues, where does that go? Is it in general, or does it stay in the ag side, or what does it do?
So right now, those funds are going into the general revenue pot, but we have a meeting set up next week to discuss if there's an appropriate place for them to end up, whether they should be added to a reserve, and then a further proposal would come back to council either as part of the year-end reporting to say these funds are going to go into this reserve, or as a separate RFD throughout the year once that's complete.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
My question comes from the information on page 189, where it talks about security. And certainly I'm aware of the intense need to be cyber secure. But my question is about whether or not it would be possible to adjust the criteria for the Proofpoint Essentials program that we have. I think I've seen 3 occasions where resident letters are going into this near spam report. And my concern is if we don't all check our report each time that is generated, that those resident letters will be lost.
Yeah, I mean, that's a program in place to keep our email clear of any fraudulent emails or breaches. My understanding, it is a kind of a learning program. So as you are aware that Proofpoint may deter some emails going in and checking regular and accepting some of those emails, I believe will allow it to learn and move them more into your inbox as opposed to keep pushing them into the Proofpoint.
So how many times do you have to accept something before it comes into your inbox instead of being hung up in the Proofpoint?
Well, if it's coming from a consistent source, it should only be the one time, but I'd have to double check with IT as to the criteria on that Proofpoint.
Okay, so I think just a note for councillors, I'm trying to get better at it. And so I would recommend that all councillors, when your Proofpoint Essentials come through, that you just click on it and make sure you go through it and then obviously accept the emails that are not spam emails, and hopefully through training the program, as Mike has said, then we'll be able to continue to get those resident emails. I understand it is an issue, but every time you try and change a program, there is going to be a bit of a learning that goes with it. And so we're just going to have to be diligent ourselves to make sure we check that proof point. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions for Mike? So Mike, I just have one on, I have a couple on this table that's on the screen right now, the property tax receivables. I get a lot of questions from the media regarding oil field outstanding property taxes. So I see from here that our outstanding oil field is at 152,000 by the end of March of this year. So that would be the outstanding taxes that Mount View County is currently waiting to collect from the oil field industry.
Yeah, at the end of that first quarter, yeah.
Okay, so again, I think this is something to really, for Mount View County, is to really celebrate in the fact that we have our exposure right now to unpaid oil and gas taxes is extremely low compared to, I mean, I'm not going to sneer at $152,000, but when we look at some of our other rural municipalities who are in the millions, if not tens of millions of dollars, we're very thankful that Mount View County has the operators that we have within our jurisdiction that are obviously paying their property taxes. So that's pretty awesome. Can you tell me the difference in the outstanding other versus the total outstanding balance? I always get my accounting principles where it's a minus and a positive where I don't understand it. So our outstanding other is almost 1.1 million, but then our total outstanding balance is a negative 714. I don't really understand that table.
Yeah, so the outstanding other, those are also accounts in arrears.
Do we broke those out, Mike, into country residential versus our other commercial businesses within the county? Do we break those out any further?
We can, but we haven't for
Okay.
this purpose.
So other would be anything other than oil field then? So it would be residential, agriculture, country residential, it's all of the other taxes?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe the outstanding balance is the current with some of the prepayments that are being made that are set up on the PAD. And obviously our notices haven't gone out at this point, so it's just some of those prepayments that are in place.
Okay. So if I understand that correctly, then our outstanding other, to get a total picture, taking out the prepayments, you would add those two. So that really our outstanding other is essentially just kind of a $300,000 to $400,000 at risk. Is that me understanding the table better?
I might need to get a little more clarification, but I believe that the outstanding other is a separate category than what this first quarter is looking at as far as the total outstanding balance. And maybe Jen can explain a little bit more.
So the total outstanding balance right now is in a negative, and that's because we have collected those prepayments on the PADs. So the net impact right now, you're correct, is about 300,000, but they're separate accounts. So I would say that the risk is always associated with the sum of people that have not paid. Other people have paid in advance, which as a whole brings down that outstanding value. But once that tax notice hits in May, all those accounts that are in a credit are now going to apply against their coming levy, and you're still going to see that 1.095. So you're correct that from an overall balance, the risk there is about the 300,000, but those unpaid accounts are still a risk worth just over $1 million.
Okay,
Does
so
that make sense?
so that the outstanding other is not essentially the same as the total outstanding balance. They could be completely different accounts. So we're in the black by 714 because we're getting that through prepayment, but we're at risk of the 1.1 and they're not the same. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That makes a lot more sense to me now, that table. And what is the bad debt listing there?
So bad debt is accounts that have been identified as likely uncollectible. They remain on the listing, although they net out because we recognize an allowance for bad debt. So their account still recognizes that they're unpaid, but we've recognized that expense in a prior year or perhaps in this year. And so it's not part of that 714,000. It will remain there as a bad debt credit essentially against the outstanding until those are either written off or paid.
Okay. Pluses and minuses in accounting don't mean the same to me as they do in the real world, but I'm going to take your word for it. But I thank you for that. That explains a lot of my questions on that. So overall, I always want to highlight this. Mountain View County is in a very good position as far as the risk of not having property taxes paid. I think that's what I'm getting out of this. Jen, Mike, is that correct?
Yeah, I think we're in pretty good standing for the most part.
Thank
compared
you.
to other municipalities.
Thank you.
I would agree.
Excellent. Is there any other questions for Mike on this report? No, Mike, is there anything else you wanted to point out on the report?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then we do have a motion on page 187. Councillor Fulton.
I'll move that council receive the corporate services quarterly report as information and no further action to be taken.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. We'll move on to 8.7, Planning and Development Service Quarterly Report. Margaretta, please. Oh, sorry, did I miss Christopher? I marked you off. Christopher, I have done this to you twice today now.
I'm not taking it personal.
I
I missed
got
last council meeting, so I get that.
I'm so excited. I'm
You're
just
not used to me
marking these
being
things.
here.
We're screaming through it. I am just marking as I go. I am so sorry. 8.6. Christopher, one of the most important
Yeah.
reports that is going to come forward at this council meeting today.
Top 5 for
The
sure.
floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, your worship. So page 196 begins my department report. Starting in economic development, we are coming up with our summer 2025 plans for our marketing campaign. Had a really good success last year with our marketing campaign. Lots of good clicks and other types of content getting out there from Mountain View County. So coming up with that again, running from May to August, again, trying to target that end of school to beginning of school timeframe to continue to attract people out to our various tourism businesses. Lots going on in the regional ECDEV world where our ECDEV officer has attended. Brood leadership continues to be a large component of that I believe Councillor Lutz is also participating on. The Mountain View and Neighbors Women in Business event, which Council has previously talked about as well. And then just some other regional stuff along with Sundry Tourism. The Mountain View Regional Film Office continues to meet regularly and should see a report coming back from them within the next couple of meetings on the strategic plan that was developed by Nordicity. Into some of those next action items there. So on top of the marketing plan, we're also rolling out our passport program again. That was our attempt to try and tie some of our businesses together, specifically those tourism businesses, trying to get people to visit many of them, come out to Water Valley Saloon, but then go and check out Fallen Timber Meadery, that type of idea. Or, go to one of our golf courses, stay for supper, at one of our other local businesses. So saw some success with that last year, and we're going to carry forward with that this year. Airports have been very busy in the last little bit. So Olds Didsbury, I believe we previously communicated to council that we're undertaking a rural addressing project there. That has rolled out lots of good support from the local hangar owners there and should have that ready to go live by the end of the month, beginning of June. We've also previously communicated that we've conditionally sold the last 2 municipally owned lots at the airport. So we're just coming up with a strategy on what the next steps will be there, and then we'll engage the Aviation Advisory Committee on some guidance that will eventually come back to council. Our ECDEV officer is currently at the Alberta Aviation, Aerospace and Defense Summit in Calgary. We did this last year. This is our 2nd year of sponsoring this. Really good exposure we found out of this. Lots of follow-up out of this conference where there's a lot of general aviation folks. So we do sponsor it. We have the opportunity to attend and market ourselves when we are there. And we find fairly good exposure to that specific clientele that we're looking at for our airports. And I think when you look at the activity we've had at our airports in the last couple of years, this has been kind of one of those success stories of why we have gotten that. At Sundry Airport, we continue to market 5 municipally owned lots, working on moving that number down to 4 municipally owned lots here in the next few days. So again, success story there. And we do have the Mother's Day breakfast coming up out at the Sundry Airport this weekend, where the weather looks like it'll be great. Hopefully a lot of people will be out in that neck of the woods. Under communications, lots going on in communications. Prior to to the agenda submission, we had put that we were doing some wildfire season planning. That came in handy over the weekend when we initiated some of our communications around the wildfire. Feel like we were able to get ahead of it. Got a lot of good communication out there. So definitely kudos to Shelley and Sydney on managing that for us over the weekend into the late hours. So just kind of speaks to the planning that we do in advance, works out for us when these things come up out of the blue. The tax notice brochure and the budget booklet are both underway, and that is a large undertaking that council is aware that we do annually. And then also looking at doing our budget video that we did last year as well, which saw a lot of shares and different type of clicks there on our social media pages. Our livestock brand, everything is moving along very well there. We haven't communicated anything to council on that for a while, but we do have a plan for having the successful designer come to our council meeting on the 21st, where we will officially launch that. So we're very excited for that and have some plans on how we will then start using that over the summer months as well. And the municipal election has also been a lot of communications efforts thus far, and will continue to be a lot of efforts as we move in to the summer months. So as you can see there, the next action items there for our communications unit, there's a lot there. And a lot of our bigger projects that we see annually. Under our public participation, some of our workshops and various public participation campaigns have started in the last quarter. And we do have a fairly lively upcoming event calendar, specifically when we have Aggie Days coming up here on May 23rd and May 24th. The deadline for our farm safety poster is on Friday this week. And then we do have our Alice celebration on June 6th, which I believe council would have received an email over there as well. Moving down, lots of our stats here you'll see just because we are starting in Q1. As we get down to our service level stats on page 200, all of our ag stats have reset. So no mowing had occurred in Q1, a little bit too much snow and moisture. So you'll start seeing that kick up here as we move forward into Q2 and Q3. Corporate services sniped my good news on the Water Valley Fire Smart project, so I won't say anything on that. But we look forward to bringing forward that item for council on where you want those funds allocated. Q1 also sees the launch of our twine collection site. That site runs April to October annually and is available on the first and third Friday of each month. And there is an extra drop-off day that has been added in there as well. So that continues to be a good success story here for the county as we continue to operate as one of those collection sites, still fairly well received by all of our producers. Our emergency stats on page 202, beginning on page 202, would just note that they are a little bit skewed this quarter, as I had communicated last quarter, that there was a transition of our dispatch stats where they weren't able to provide us our November and December stats. So these are all of the stats from November to March. So a little bit higher than what you would normally see, but not irregular types of calls or percentage of calls. Q4, Q1 are very high, usually in motor vehicle collisions as we're looking over the winter months. And our medical calls continue to be very high, specifically in our West Country. As we move forward into Q2, we're starting to see the beginning of our grass fire, vegetation fire season. As I'm sure council is aware, across the province, there's a number of fires going on. We've been fairly fortunate with our teams being able to deploy fairly quickly to any issues in the county, but we are starting to see that tick up as we normally would. Fire permits, again, very high, continue to be reflective that individuals are using fire permits. The process is working. The online process works very well, gives us additional analytics, really makes it easy when we transition into our fire restriction, fire ban season as well, to be able to shut those down quickly. We used to have to get on the phone and phone every single person that had pulled a permit in the last 30 days. We don't have to do that anymore. So administrative efficiencies are much, much higher now with the application of fire restrictions or fire bans. Patrol stats on the top of page 204. Again, some fairly large stops of the quarter, ranging from 58 over to 43 over. As the road conditions get better, as the sun comes out, we of course see those speeds start to increase. a lot of activity by our patrol department here in the last quarter on specific things, but also just on their general roles. Almost 40,000 kilometers were patrolled by the team in the last quarter. Issued 107 violations and had 134 hazard timers requested. That, just for council's information, is the number of violations plus anytime they go on scene for a property for bylaw or for any other type of enforcement, they activate their hazard timer, which kind of gives it a depiction of other calls that they're on that aren't just traffic stops. So that shows about 134 interactions with the public in the last quarter. Number of offenses continue to be fairly stagnant, fairly consistent year over year. And our traffic safety plan for the last quarter was intersection safety, distracted driving, and occupant restraints. And I believe, Your Worship, that is all I have to report on specifically, but can answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you. Council, any questions for Christopher? Councillor Harris.
Christopher, just looking at the fire calls by incident types for across the departments, and I was aware that Cremona did A through E, but it's looking to Sundre as well, because they have quite a few medical calls.
Yeah, so still direction going Charlie through through Echo, but I believe there's also a dispatch based on ambulance distance from Sundre. So in the event that there is not an ambulance available, even if it is an Alpha or Bravo, that they will go if it's a specific time frame for that ambulance to get there. But I can look into that a little bit further.
No, it's just curiosity. If they're doing that, then it's telling us that the ambulance, the Sundre ambulance isn't always available in Sundre, or they've shipped it off to Red Deer or something like that. That may be a more relevant light of inquiry as to why we're not getting the ambulance service when one's supposed to be there.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing that across every district. Actually, when you're looking at our medical calls across the line year over year, they seem to continue to be increasing. And from all information that I've received, it's just because of availability. Is that ambulance that's usually serving that community is now out of that community, and now our fire department is responding to calls that they might not typically have to be responding to. So as you're well aware, Councillor, you know, our medical calls, if you look at them 5 years ago to today, I think are drastically different.
Okay, thanks.
And I think Councillor Johnson can speak to this as well, but this is one of the big issues for the Sundre area, is that the ambulance is never there. It just isn't. It's always dispatched somewhere else in the region. Councillor Lutz.
I just wanted to give your ag staff some feedback. I heard from the May City Colony about the school program,
Yeah,
and they
awesome.
were really impressed. So good
That's
work
great.
on that.
Awesome, I'll pass along the message.
Great. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Thanks for your report, Christopher. I have a question about the topsoil permits reflected on page 200 of the agenda. I have been reading that in Ontario, there is a new invasive species called the hammerhead worm, and it has spread very quick and appears to be becoming pretty problematic. And as we're moving topsoil around, are we looking for this invasive species because it comes on things like the bottom of sea cans and things that are moved around? I'm wondering what we're doing to prevent it from ending here.
Yeah, so the topsoil permit comes from the county's topsoil bylaw, which regulates the movement of topsoil in and out of the county. It's not specifically a inspection process where our teams go and inspect the soils or require any type of inspection of those soils. It's more a tracking of the topsoil and the opportunity for us to see if it's coming from an area where where there's more clubroot infestation, that we have an opportunity to look at that prior to it just coming in. But there isn't a specific screening process of that soil to make sure that specific truckload that's coming into the county doesn't contain any type of noxious insects or issues.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
So Christopher, I see our chemical shed has been totally cleaned up over here, so our campsite is done. Have you had much for interaction with people inquiring what to do now that it's closed?
Not specifically. I have heard that there has been some interaction, just friendly interactions of, oh, now where do I take it or what do I do with it? seems like it's being dealt with well at the point of sale, that, you know, they're being told what to do with it afterwards, but haven't had a lot of negativity about it or, you know, an overwhelming amount of inquiries about what to do with it. So just general correspondence, I would say, is what I've heard of.
Thank you.
Excellent. Is there any other questions for Christopher? No? If not, then we have a motion on page 195. Councillor Nixon.
I would move that council receive the Legislative Community and Agricultural Services quarterly report as information and that no further action to be taken.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. 8.7, Planning and Development Services quarterly report. Margaretta, please.
Thank you, Reeve. The report starts on page 206 of the agenda, and the first quarter stats is on page 208 for all the planning and development applications as well as decisions. That includes January statistics, February and March. I will now move to page 207 for the updates on the project. So for planning and for the planning side, the Sundre Airport concept plan, there was 2 meetings held in January, February, and a 3rd meeting in April. We are now moving forward with our engagement of the draft concept plan to engage the public. So there is a pre-recording that is available with all of the materials on our website. There is also a virtual open house that is scheduled for May 14th. And then there is the in-person open house that we will be doing on May the 26th. We have communicated to all of the people within the outer surface area via mail. And we have also sent a communication to the town of Sundre Council as well as administration if they want to distribute any of the information to their residents. We will also be present at the Mother's Day open house, Mother's Day breakfast on Sunday to drum up some support and share some materials on those engagements. For the Bergen ASP review, there's also been a meeting held in March and April, and there is a next meeting scheduled for May 15th. They have identified the date for their in-person engagement that they're doing early on to get some response from the public, and that is scheduled for June the 4th at the Bergen Hall. With regards to policy, MDP changes and land use bylaw changes for flood hazard areas as a result of the Upper Red Deer River hazard study, we are aiming to bring back a report to council since our March council discussion in June. Then you will also see on page 216 of the agenda, at the last quarterly reports, there was some discussion by council on needing some additional information on our bylaw report. So what you will see, the 3rd last column, enforcement status, is new. So you will see that at the bottom of the table, there's levels assigned, level 1, 2, 3, and 4, that will be assigned to each of these files, giving council an indication on what has been happening on the file. It also correlates with typically a time frame where level 1 is either a new file or under investigation. Level 2 is when we send out warning letters or notices, and those can include combined notices, abatement notices, or a towing notice. Level 3 is the level where we move the enforcement further and will typically include provincial ticketing or orders, which can be under the MGA or a stop order. And then lastly, the highest level is level 4, where we will typically approach the court, and that could be the Court of Justice or the Court of King's Bench. And again, everything that is highlighted yellow are files that are closed and will not show in the next quarterly report.
Thank you. Any questions for Margaretta? First of all, Margaret, I think the additional information on the bylaw report is excellent. Thank you for that. I think just having an idea of where the status of these files are is very, very helpful. I'm just always surprised. I honestly did not realize that dog control within the county was predominantly what we work on. So again, it highlights to council. This is a great report because it highlights to council when we do reviews where the focus of some of our review needs to be. So thank you for that. Any questions for Margaretta? No. And thank you for all of the hard work on the area structure plans as well. I think the concept plan for Sundre is going very smoothly, and that's really great. And it's good to see that the Bergen area structure plan is moving along really well. And I think I'm very excited to see how the new process for the Bergen area structure plan is going to support the process by having that initial engagement. So looking forward to some feedback from the committee members on how that goes. It's always good to change the process up and see how new additions make it better. Excellent. Is there any other discussion on Margaretta's report? If not, we have a motion on page 206. Councillor Lutz.
I move that council receives planning and development services quarterly report as information and that no further action be taken.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And we will do the CAO report before the break. So Jeff, please.
Thank you, Reeve. On 218 is the CEO services report, and we'll start with health and safety. So there have been 5 incidents that have been reported in Q1 of 2025. 2 of those were near miss. One was a sprain and strain, and 1 equipment defect and 1 equipment damage. Also, I wanted to highlight on page 219, you'll notice that the WCB premium rate has gone up from historical reports. Since this is the first report for 2025, it reflects that the WCB premium, as I understand it, is based on a kind of a 3-year rotating historical cost of claims. And so you don't count the year immediately prior. So this 2025's premium is based on 21, 22, and 23 claims. And so in 23, we had significantly higher costs for WCB lost time claims than the year that dropped off, which would have been 2020. So that's why you're seeing an increase in our premium related to the WCB piece that you'll see on page 219. We are still below industry average, but with the adjustment dropping off 1 year and adding on the next year, we are much closer to industry average for 2025. The second part of this report is the Human Resources quarterly report. Human Resources very busy this time of year with our term staff. We had some ag term staff return starting this week. We have returning and new term staff for both ag and ops starting next week. So next week we'll be very busy with orientations and training and getting staff up to speed. And we'll also be doing some flag person training again. And we are currently working out with Ride for Dad if they can join in one of our training courses. We have done that for them in the past since they are doing some flag control and traffic stopping on our road network as they do their Ride for Dad. We do help train them and make sure they're doing it safely. So that will likely proceed again. We're still investigating that. And on the recruitment side, you'll see lots of positions have been filled early in the year. The communication specialist was filled, and currently we are recruiting for records management, and the health and safety position also is vacant and is being posted this week. You'll notice at the bottom of page 220, a couple of resignations, the development compliance officer from January, and at the end of March, the records management coordinator resigned as well. The development compliance officer, I believe I reported earlier, our plan is to not fill that at this point in time and reevaluate the status of the position as we move towards budget 2026. And with that, if there's any questions, I will try and answer them.
Okay. And Jeff, can you just once again, safety day, when is this, I know we passed the motion, when's the safety day for the county?
So it'll be May 30th, and we will be closing the office at 11 a.m.
Thank you. Councillor Lutz.
I just had 2 quick questions. HET apprentice, what does HET stand for?
Heavy equipment technician apprentice. So we sort of, I guess we help them with their schooling. They do part school, part apprentice work, and they get their practical experience with the county.
And I just noticed we're hiring a health and safety coordinator. Is that a new position or
No,
Or-
it's replacing an existing position on the org chart.
So it's not on your report.
No, it was in Q2.
Is there any further questions for Jeff? No? If not, then we have a motion on page 217. Councillor Johnson.
I would move that council receives the CAO Services Quarterly Report as information and that no further action be taken.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried, and we will take a break until 10:30. All right, we will resume the regular meeting of May 7th. And we are on 9.1, additional named insured Coburn Community Club. Jeff or Christopher? Or, okay. All right.
So Coburn Community Club is requesting to become an additional named insured under Mountain View County's insurance policy. This community group is crucial in the maintenance and improvement of the Coburn Community Hall, which is located at the corner of Range Road 10 and Township 322. The hall is part of a network of community halls and associations within Mountain View County, which serve as venues for various events, meetings, and social activities. In 2024, the Coburn Community Hall was a host to several activities, including bingo nights, book club rentals, family reunion rentals, Christmas parties, and community garage sales. If we scroll to page 222 in the agenda package, we have a copy of a quote application in which they have sent in. If approved by council, this will be sent to RMA Insurance to obtain a price quote for them. On page 228, their claims history is showing no claims since 1982. Page 229 is a copy of their annual return confirming that they're a nonprofit organization. And then on 231, there's a copy of their meeting minutes highlighting their wish to proceed with the A&I process and getting a quote from RMA Insurance. Administration has reviewed the application as well as policy 1037 and believes that Coburn Community Club meets the requirements to proceed with the process of becoming an A&I under Mountain View County's policy.
Thank you, Kelsey. Is there any questions? No. Then we have a motion on page 221. Councillor Miller.
I'd move the council approve the addition of the Coburn Community Club as an additional named insured on the county's insurance policy.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? I will call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. Thank you for your report. 9.2, Annual Canada Day Breakfast. Christopher.
Thanks, Your Worship. This is on page 233 of your agenda package. It's time for council to set the location and date for the Canada Day breakfast if you wish to do it again this year. We typically do it the Friday before Canada Day, which would be Friday, June 27th for this year. We have provided a listing of the locations that we have historically held it at and some possible locations for council to consider. Administration, when we look at the map, looks like we're due to go west again somewhere. So we've provided Bergen Community Hall as an option or Water Valley Community Hall as an option, but certainly council can choose to go wherever you like and we will make it work. So just looking for direction on what you would like to do this year.
Thank you. So we've never done it at the Bergen Community Hall. Quite a good idea, a nice idea. I think the facilities at the Bergen Hall are very similar to the Eagle Hill Community Hall that we were at a couple of years back.
Yeah, very similar. We do find it quite a bit easier to pull off when there's bathroom facilities and some type of kitchen facility with running water. It's easier than having to haul all of that in to say like the East Old Shop. But certainly we can host it anywhere. We have a proven track record of hosting it anywhere and everywhere. So you just let us know.
And parking is not an issue at the Bergen Hall either, to accommodate as many people that are coming in. I'm just a question maybe. Yeah. Okay. All right. Councillor Lutz.
I just think with the area structure plan, it's just another touch point with Bergen residents. So I think that would be a good way to reach out again.
That's a great idea. Councillor Lutz, is that a motion?
Sure. I move that Mountain View County Council schedule the 2025 Canada Day Pancake Breakfast to be held at the Bergen Hall on Friday, June 27th, 2025.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. 9.3, Olds Healthcare Funding Committee sponsorship request, fundraising committee sponsorship request. Christopher.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. It is a request for some sponsorship dollars to host their barn dance fundraiser, which is coming up on May 10th here right away at the Olds College Alumni Center. They have a a number of different sponsorship opportunities that council may wish to consider, ranging from $500 to $1,500. And I don't believe that we have funded an event like this from the Olds Healthcare Fundraising Committee previously.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor Johnson.
Not a question, perhaps. I was wondering, given that we support the Sundre Hospital Futures to the tune of two tables, usually at $800 each for a total of 16, whether or not we wanted to consider a gold sponsorship in this case, and that would be the $1,500, which is similar to how we support Sundre.
So is that a motion, Councillor Johnson?
I could make that motion, yes. I would move that council approves a sponsorship in the amount of $1,500, which is the gold sponsorship for the Olds Healthcare Fundraising Committee's Barn Dance fundraiser.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this one? Councillor Fulton.
It's just interesting, this one does not, none of these sponsorships include any tickets for anyone to attend. They're kind of a different one than most things you sponsor. Generally, then you would get some representation, and I don't know whether this is kind of last minute. I have no idea whether anybody's interested, or you'd have to get tickets separately if you wanted to attend or anything. So that's what it is. A bit different than most fundraising things that we have supported.
Yeah, and just looking at this, so a lot of the gold sponsorship includes social media posts and I think it's radio ads and such. Christopher, how does this, I mean, can we incorporate some of this in within what the county already pays for, so we can do social media posts on behalf? I don't know if we can sponsor some radio ads. I don't know. We can also put this in our community calendar, our the newspaper. How would we handle something like this if the community reached out and said, can you advertise this event for us?
Yeah, so typically if we're supporting an event, we would share their information on social media whenever possible. Kind of tough with this one, just with the timelines that it is coming up on Saturday. So probably a lot of those social media posts and radio things that I would assume have already been done to generate attention towards the event. So we might be missing out on some of those with, that would typically be offered under that gold sponsorship. But I guess to answer your question, we would normally support an event, as much as we can through sharing their stuff on our pages, community calendar, et cetera.
Yeah, so I'm struggling a little bit just with the funding of it, just of where the money was supposed to go to. I'd rather fund them less this year and encourage them to come forward earlier next year, so that we could actually utilize the money for where it is actually supposed to go. I'm just not sure on the $500 if it's appropriate that the county support a liquor chest. So I'm struggling with this one a little bit myself. Councillor Lutz.
Just as an FYI, I did know about this event, but we've got 4-H, so unable to attend. The tickets are $100 a person if anybody's interested in going. They're having dueling pianos and dinner and entertainment for $100, and $20 will count as a donation to the event directly.
Okay. So we do have a motion on the floor. It doesn't mean we can't put an additional motion on the floor, but the current motion we have is for gold sponsorship of $1,500. So let's deal with this motion first. So I will call to question all in favor. And those opposed? And so that motion's lost. Councillor, let's just wondering, do you sit on this, you don't sit on this committee?
No, the two groups, the retention and attraction, we've been trying to work with them, and there just seems to be that they want to do their own thing. So not a whole lot. We have one member that is on both committees, so.
Okay, because I think Councillor Fulton's suggestion would be a really good one. I know it works out really, really well in Sundre that the county is able to buy 2 tables and we usually don't, not that we have to this year, but historically we've bought the 2 tables and then we're able to donate one to the Ladies Auxiliary Club and it's a real nice way to do a volunteer appreciation and maybe this committee would consider doing the same thing so we can kind of get 2 birds with 1 stone where we're actually supporting this, but also we're supporting the volunteer organizations that do so much work for the hospitals as well. So, yeah, I'm just struggling with what we're supporting on this as far as media posts because we do so much social media ourselves and we have so much opportunity to help in this. I don't really want to pay for something that our staff can do so well themselves. Councillor Lutz.
So I would put forward a motion that, that we approve a sponsorship in the amount of $500 and not go for one of the, name things with feedback that they needed to come to us earlier. And, some of the feedback that you provided on potentially a table. So we're still supporting the event, but I don't think we should do a liquor chest or anything either. So I guess it's just a donation. So I can reword that differently without the.
And just looking at that, I mean, if we're going to do, I think that a name recognition is always very important as well. So maybe it's just a sponsorship with a name recognition for this time. But Councillor Lutz, I'll let you, maybe I'll let you word your motion. Yeah.
The council approves a sponsorship in the amount of $500 for name or for the Olds Healthcare Fundraising Committee Barn Dance fundraiser as a named sponsor.
Councillor Lutz, does that, does that capture your motion? Okay, so the motion reads that council approves a sponsorship in the amount of $500 for the Olds Healthcare Fundraising Committee's Barn Dance fundraiser as a named sponsor. Discussion.
As given the additional information we've had from the discussion, certainly this makes a lot more sense. I support this.
Okay, is there any further discussion on this? No? Okay, I will call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. I think that was a great compromise on the funding and we will, Christopher, when we send this back, I think we do include that some of the suggestions maybe that council have put forward. All right, on to, we are in the season of golf. So 9.4 fundraising golf tournament. Christopher.
That's right. So fundraising golf tournament for the Mountain View Hospice Society, looking for some sponsorship for their event that's happening on June 12th. Typically, we try to bring all of the golf tournaments at once. We did reach out, but they weren't ready with their information quite yet. So you should see the remaining golf tournaments coming in the next few months here. We have sponsored in the past the Play for Sundre Kids Golf Tournament and the Mountain View Seniors Housing Golf Tournament fairly regularly year over year. And then we review any additional requests kind of on a one-off basis. So this one, again, a bunch of different options for council to consider, lots of different funding categories. And then if council wishes to participate in the event or not. Again, we have provided at the bottom of page 240, the budget for council's overall grant line. So there is $10,000 allocated annually, was $8,500 minus the $500 that was just spent. So about $8,000 remaining in that budget line.
Okay, and so we have historically on page 241, we can see the golf tournaments that we've supported. As Christopher said, the Sundre for Kids in 500 and the Mountain View Senior Housing for 1,500. So Councillor Fulton.
So before I make a motion there, the previous council, there was people that would golf and this council, there's a lot less, seems to be a lot less golfers. So I would be interested in doing the breakfast type sponsor where we don't have to worry about filling golf slots. Unless there's a change where people want to go golfing this season.
I'll look for a motion.
I would move that we sponsor do the breakfast sponsor for, what is this called? For the Mountain View Hospice Society golf tournament.
Okay, and that's $1,000.
$1,000 breakfast sponsor, yeah.
Okay. So discussion on that? So there also, so there is an opportunity within that to do volunteer participation at the table. If anyone wants to take that on as well. Any further discussion? Nope, seeing none, then I will call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. And Christopher, how many more of these do we expect to come through? Just the two, the senior, Mount View Senior Housing and the Sundry Play for Kids?
For sure, the two, and then I
Historically?
would suggest there's usually one or two other ones that we look at annually as well.
Okay. And do we normally go over our council grant budget historically?
I think we've been good in recent years. We increased it, I want to say 2 years ago, because I think it used to be 5,000 and we historically were going over. So I think we are pretty good year over year now.
Perfect. Councillor Lutz?
I think I'm going to talk to Hope for MBC Kids because they do a fundraiser in the fall at Willow Lane Barn. And I noticed last year there was a lot of municipal support. And I just went on my own and I thought we needed to probably be there. So I'm going to talk to them and just see if they wanted to approach the county because it's a great event. And as I said, every other municipality was there in force.
Does every other municipality give them a chunk of change as well?
Good to check that out. I think they do.
Yep.
I just thought we didn't really know about it
No. Okay.
so much. And so
Yep.
I will talk to them. So that's one that I think will be coming.
Okay. 9.5, 2025 Cremona District Rec Board funding approvals. Christopher?
I'll pass this one over to Josie and she can run you through the approvals from the Cremona Rec Board.
So this year for Cremona and District Recreation Board, we had $412,000 available to allocate. The committee currently has allocated $311,000. So that leaves an amount in the reserve of $101,000. And that includes the special request that came in from the Cremona Egg Society for the arena chiller that we previously discussed.
Okay. Greg, is there anything additional you'd like to add?
No, if you look at the totals, it was higher than last year. We handed out. Nope, sorry, it's on my other thing here. So last year, we handed out 303,000 roughly. This year, 311. And just to remind everybody, we leave a carryover for just the kind of things we experience with the arena needing to replace their chillers. So that there is money in the carryover to handle those things without having to come back to council for a special request.
Okay.
And it's proven valuable over the years.
So just a question on the arena. I know we've had discussions before at council that the arena, I think historically has just been used for ice and it doesn't really get used much in the summer. Is that still the case or are they using it more in the summer for events?
They are. There was a change in leadership in the Ag Society 3 years ago now. And as you saw, it's hosted Aggie Days once and it's used for summer and can be leased in the summer. They now have a full-time attendant there. So everything from ball hockey to pickleball is playable in there.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Josie? No. Then we have a motion on page 252. Greg, Councillor Harris.
I'll move that council receives an for information, the 2025 Cremona and District Recreation Board funding approvals as approved by the Cremona and District Recreation Board Committee on April 30th, 2025 in the amount of $311,127.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. 9.6 MD of Bighorn Fire Services Subagreement. Jeff, please.
Thank you, Reeve. On October 2nd, 2024, our intermunicipal collaboration committee between Bighorn and Mountain View County met. And one of the items we discussed was the fire services subagreement. The committee agreed that there was some minor updates that could be made to this agreement. And so administratively, we've gone back and forth with the MD of Bighorn and have prepared those amendments. You will see those amendments attached in your agenda package. We also have the old agreement in there with the red line, well, the current agreement with the red line struck through it. And upon approval of the new agreement, that agreement will be rescinded. A couple of highlights, just to point out some of the changes. In section number 1, definitions, we removed definitions for individual pieces of fire equipment, recognizing that we are contracting some fire service to Bighorn. We are the primary responder for a small area of Bighorn. And so we wanted the flexibility to ensure that as our equipment changes, the agreement's not out of date. So we removed some definitions of very specific pieces of equipment. In 4.9, that's a new section that Bighorn requested, just ensuring there's a provision that requires us to provide notification to the Bighorn Fire Chief as soon as practicable in the event of a response that we are responding to on their behalf. And the other major change that I would make note of is the new map in Schedule A. You'll see the MD of Bighorn provided us with an update to provide some clarity on the mapping for their municipality and highlighting where we respond and where there's a joint response. And with that, we do anticipate the MD Bighorn taking this to their council next week for approval as well, and providing it's approved by both municipalities, we'll then execute the agreement.
Thank you. Any questions for Jeff? I think the update of referring the fees to the Alberta Transportation Economic Corridors guidelines is really good, because then we don't have to keep updating this, and it's pretty consistent between everything. So I think that makes things a lot simpler as well. All right, if there's no questions for Jeff, then we have a motion on page 254. Councillor Nixon.
I move that council approve the fire services sub-agreement with the MD of Bighorn as presented.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. All right, we will move on to council reports. And I'll start with Greg, please.
So on the 24th of April, attended the Mountain View Senior Housing's board retreat. I'll leave the details to our chair, Councillor Fulton. On the 28th, attended or participated in a meeting with the Reeve and representative of the University of Calgary's School of Veterinary Medicine. And I'll let her expand on that relative to Aggie Days. And then attended a meeting in Carstairs on the policing study. And again, I'll defer to you on that. It's been and I've had a bunch of meetings. You can sure tell the development fever is out there, because I've had about 5 meetings with residents wanting to talk about subdivision and developments and stuff like that. So, and that's mine.
Thank you. Councillor Lutz.
So I attended the Olds Volunteer Appreciation Evening. Councillor Fulton also participated and gave remarks. So I'll let him expand on that one. I went to the task force retreat with the Olds Invest project on May 1st. It was phase 1, and they focused on workforce development. And it was just a think tank, and they're proposing bunch of different projects based on the Brood survey, which ended up getting over 700 responses. So working through that data to try and figure out next steps. The second phase of the retreat is May 14th, and the themes for that meeting will be innovation, financial capital, business climate, marketing, infrastructure capacity, resources, and quality of life. So they break us into groups and work us through that. So I did send some information on the first task force. It had a survey on workforce issues that our employers are seeing. So that was sent to you if you had a chance to read it, but I'll send the phase 2 and keep you up to date. And I think if anybody wanted to attend, they're more than welcome to. It's quite interesting, and there's a lot of business people there, so it's a good networking opportunity. And they have those meetings in Innisfail. And just a note that Hope for MVC, I don't know how they did it, but they found funding for that program 7 that isn't always available. And that's for assessing children with learning disabilities or needs. And that's usually about a $3,000 hit to families that's not covered through any education or HS. So it's a program that fills up really quickly. So if you know anybody or want to share that, they have Facebook post and you can share that out loud with your friends. And just thanks to Ryan, I did get some of those complaints on the blading and the work we're doing to try and improve the roads, because what I'm hearing is they're nice packed roads that aren't dusty, and you guys work them and then you create a bunch of dust and we hate you. So I appreciate operations support on why we providing the information on why we need to do this and make dust. So thanks for that.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
So mine started on the 24th out at Sundre, was a Sundre Mayor's Prayer Breakfast early in the morning. And then following that, the 24th also was a meet and greet with Mountain View Seniors Housing and Mountain View Seniors Housing Foundation. There's some new members on the foundation, so we were able to meet with Mountain View Seniors Housing, which took place at the Carstairs Fire Hall. So that was a busy morning. Then that evening's back out to the Sundre Hospital Futures Dinner. Very well attended, and it was great to see all the people out there. And then on the 25th, we had our Mountain View Regional Waste Commission AGM and our meeting. And a note on that, Circular Materials will be the contractor looking after the recycling when it comes about. So anticipating mid-June that we may have a contract with Circular, and that would offer services by Circular at the Water Valley Transfer Station, the Sundre Transfer Station, and the Didsbury Landfill. So the collection equipment would also be by E360 that would be on site, and we're very diligently working to try and get a contract done with Circular Materials, but it's all the ball's in their court. We can only pursue it as hard as we can. And on the 29th, then Didsbury Volunteer Appreciation Night, I was able to bring greetings on behalf of the county, and it was great to see all the volunteers from every club and community program. And it was a very good meal, so that was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller, and Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. I attended the Sundre Hospital's future dinner at the Sundre Golf Course. The P3 partnership spoke about their going forward plans. It was an excellent evening. I also attended the volunteer recognition and appreciation in Sundre, where they had cowboy poetry by Doris Daly and Doc Mill. I attended Sundre Wellness Advocacy meeting where Sundre proposed to submit the resolution that Mountain View County took to RMA on rural participation on the Integration Council. Attended the Sundre Hospital Futures dinner at the Fine Arts Center in Sundre, where the University of Calgary Longitudinal Integrated Clerkship, abbreviated to UCLIC, hosted 34 third-year medical students. That was a really neat experience. The medical students had been in Sundre. They were there for a day and a half. This was the evening before the days. There was a whole series of things each group had to participate in. They were very keen and happy to use the eSIM lab there, which is a wonderful resource that Sundre has, and did things as obscure for a rural life experience as included going to the rodeo grounds and milking a goat. And so lots of fun and lots of learning, and it was a really excellent evening. Dr. Ram, who has done the work with us in the for the resolution, attended that, as well as the other RPAP board people. The last thing is that I am proposing to put my name forward again for a director position with the RDRWA. From lots of discussion in the last few months with the governance from the Watershed Alliance, the suggestion has been that people, because the deadline is, I think, the end of May, the AGM will be in June. So if I was not elected again as Mountain View County councillor, what it does is it still would have a chair for Mountain View on the RDRWA board if I was successful. So I would ask for council input and support for me to put my name forward for that, whether or not, regardless of what the future holds. So that would be my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nixon.
Busy time of year again with roads and dust and brushing and ditches and culverts. So lots and lots and lots of communication with residents on that. And of course, we'll always do the best we can to make sure that we're helping everybody out as much as possible and letting them know what the processes and procedures are for some of that stuff. I attended the prayer breakfast as well in Sundre. Great there. Of course, my husband made me cry, so that wasn't very nice, but you know, always in the fun and the games. And then again in Sundre, the same day we had the Sundre Hospital Futures event, and I thought that was really well done. It was great information and good to see so many people there. So really amazing the turnout for that. MPC was canceled, so we didn't have an MPC meeting. And then council today. So just, of course, look forward to that. And then we've got our emergency advisory meeting after council meeting. So looking forward to that as well.
Thank you. Councillor Fulton.
So back on the 24th, Mountain View Seniors Housing Planning Retreat. Started out the day with an interaction with the foundation board, which hasn't happened in the past. I think it was a good opportunity. We had our lodge managers there. I think it was a good opportunity for interaction there. So they were there in the morning. Then it was a full day, facilitated day to go through everything, mission and vision, values. We updated that. We'll wait for the final draft of that to come back. And just getting a general overview of where we are and what we're doing going forward. So we'll look forward to that document coming back. 25th attended the Olds Volunteer Appreciation with Councillor Lutz. And I'd never been to that one before, and it was amazing. The room was full at the alumni. They have Citizen of the Year, Youth of the Year, Senior of the Year. And it was just a really fun and enthusiastic evening there. And I was glad to attend there. And on the 30th, I went to the Carstairs one, and that was quite a scaled back version, but it was still very good. I know I know virtually everybody that's, around there. All the volunteers are the same. So that was nice to attend that. And then coming up tomorrow, Councillor Miller and I are working at the casino for the Mountain View Seniors Housing Foundation in Red Deers. So, try to raise some funds there. So that is all.
Thank you. So as Councillor Harris has mentioned, we were able to connect with the University of Calgary Veterinary Medical team to ask for their support for Aggie Days. And we're hoping that we are going to have the UCVM that participate in one, if not both days at Aggie Days this year. So we're really excited about that. Another opportunity has come up to engage again with the Dean of the University of Calgary Veterinary Medical program, and we're hoping to engage with them and try and figure out how we can support, again, what they're trying to do enthusiastically with reaching out to young kids and getting young kids involved in the program so that we can try and increase the amount of rural vets that we have in our counties. Probably it will take 10 years by the time we engage them now and work them through, but we're told when we start young, that's when we get them very enthusiastic and hooked on the program. So that's very exciting. We had a meeting regarding the regional policing deployment model, and this was the MNP report that Carstairs has been kind of spearheading with Crossfield, Mount View County, and Didsbury. To be truthful, I think, and I don't think I'm overstepping here, I'll look at Greg and Jeff here, but I think we were overall very disappointed with the report. I don't think it potentially went in the direction that the county was hoping to see, which was more of a redeployment model and how we could better utilize the resources with a new Carstairs detachment coming on stream, and how we could work to really figure out how those resources were going to be better deployed. There was a lot of reference to some, things like the Law Enforcement Review Board, who do not regulate or look into complaints on the RCMP. So it's still unclear to us what the actual report is trying to get at. So we've asked for a bit more information and some of the re-rates on that. So it was a good discussion, but I do think that there was a lot of the same concerns in the room, that it wasn't looking at a redeployment, but basically a regional model, which is very different according to the Police Act. So we gave all of our feedback there. I'm very pleased to have both Greg and Jeff there with their expertise on that. I think it was a good meeting. Other exciting thing, we were contacted by the Associate Chief Crown Prosecutor from their office in response to the letter that we sent to Minister Amory. They've given us two options. One option was potentially to come and do a presentation to council. They said they've done that before. The presentation would be looking at giving us information directly from the Crown Prosecutor, as well as answering any questions we may have. So Laura's looking at trying to set up a delegation for them to come forward. We'll let you know in advance of when that's going to be, so that if you have anything that you want to research or any questions that you want to ask, then you can ask those. But it's the first time that I've been on council that we've actually had anything come from the Crown Prosecutor's office. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to follow up on RMA, and it does demonstrate the importance of attending the RMA and giving us information as to who to reach out and who to engage. So I think that's going to be really good. Sundry Volunteer Appreciation Night, always excellent. And then I sent out some information on Project Playhouse. This is the initiative that is being spearheaded to try and raise $80,000 for the Mountain View Shelter in Olds. If anyone is able to attend on July 1st, I know it's very busy. We'll be going back and forth between events in Sundry and Olds, but we have two teams competing in this to build a playhouse. I am the head of one team, and Tracy McCrimmon is the head of the other team. So it will be interesting to see, but looking at whether or not you're available to help flip burgers or pancakes and sausages at 7 o'clock in the morning, or whether or not you want to participate in a team challenge at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm supposed to be responsible for collecting elected officials and MLAs to attend this event, which I did say July 1st was quite difficult. I don't expect our MLAs are going to be available for this, because I know Minister Nixon last year was going from one end of his constituency right to the next and was, it was stop and go for him. So we'll see how that goes. But if you are able to attend, I would greatly, very much appreciate your support. I've sent out quite a few emails, just trying to forward everything from RMA. We have some from RDR MUG, the water engagement sessions that are coming forward. So I apologize if I have missed any forwarding to you. I try and forward them as soon as I get them. So, so you can attend any of these that are coming up. Other than that, that's it for me. Councillor Letts.
I'm sorry, I forgot one thing that is next week, but just because we're not meeting for council, but it's Nurses Week next week from May 12th to 18th. And so our A&R committee in Olds, we're doing subway deliveries to the nurses in the hospital. And if anybody wants to volunteer for that, I can send you the schedule too. But it's Love Your Nurse next week.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Harris.
While you were speaking, I received an email from the University of Calgary. They are definitely attending.
Very exciting. That's excellent. It's going to be a great addition to Aggie Days. All right. So with that, if there's no further questions on anyone's reports, then I will ask for a motion to accept all those reports as information by Councillor Nixon. Any further discussion? Call to question, all in favor? And that motion is carried. And so we have some information items. We have two contact newsletters. Is there any discussion on either of those? So I just, there's so many bills that are coming out now. It's quite hard to follow. It's quite hard to follow all the bills, but the one I thought was probably the most interesting and kind of falls in line with the discussion we've just had on the regional policing model is this Bill 49. If passed, Bill 49, the Public Safety and Emergencies Act Status Amendment will amend 4 pieces of legislation. And so it's going to specify that Alberta's prospective new police service will be operationally independent from the government while also giving municipalities more options for their local policing needs. So it looks like the sheriffs potentially may be transitioning into more of a provincial police force. I don't know. I think we all kind of anticipated it and expected that when they were bolstering the sheriff's department, that this would eventually potentially become a provincial police force. So, but it says prospective, so I don't know exactly what that means, but interesting times, I think, for Alberta and the way that policing is going to be moving forward. Stay tuned. So that was probably the most interesting thing that I picked out of the contact newsletter. If there's anything anyone else wants to point out or discuss, we can do that. If not, we have a motion on page 275 on the screen. Councillor Johnson.
I would move that council receive the following items as information, both contact newsletters.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. And I just, one thing that I didn't mention in my council reports, I did send everyone a information regarding provincial awards that are coming up. I can't remember what they were called now. I forgot to put that information item on the council agenda this time, but I'll just say it. If anyone reads that and decides that they feel like there is someone in the community that is worthy of putting forward for that particular award, please let Jeff know, and then we can put it on the next council agenda for a closed session discussion because we have time. The awards aren't until the end of, the nominations aren't until the end of May, but I know we always like to have those come forward to council so we can at least have an opportunity to recognize some community members if it fits. Councillor Fulton.
That was through the Parks and Rec.
That one, yes. Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to remember to mention that. All right. So I think that takes us to the end of our open session agenda. So with that, I will look for a motion to go in closed session, please. Moved by Counselor Fulton. Called to question, all in favor? And that motion's carried. This is, we're not the Ag Service Board. Council has now moved into closed session, which will end the public broadcast. Any motions following the in-camera session will be captured within the council's meeting minutes, which can be found on the county's website in the next few days. Thank you for tuning in. And we will take a 5-minute break, 11, and give